And welcome back to episode 2 of All About That Action, the sports podcast where I, your host AJ, is going to talk all about sports, really, in the name. And today, episode 2, season 1, the podcast, is going to be a recap of what went on in the NFL in the last week of the season, week 18. I did some picks yesterday in the podcast, and I think that there are a lot of stuff that went right and a lot of stuff that went wrong. So I'm going to recap that with you today. I'm also going to go over the Steelers a little bit more and more into depth on how we can make that next step to a playoff push, which I don't really have any hope for us right now. As, you know, confirmed we're playing the Ravens after a Chargers victory. And also congratulations to the Broncos. That was a crazy win. No matter if you have your backups in or not, Chiefs, That is an embarrassing loss, and I know it's not going to hold them much because their starters weren't in the game, but still, that is a pretty embarrassing loss, nevertheless. So, I think just to open up, recapping the games here, I'll look at some of the picks I had and what we can go over. So, yesterday I had a really big pick, which I projected the Chicago Bears to beat the Green Bay Packers, which ended up happening. And I basically said in the video that I thought it was a really, high chance of something like that to happen with the Bears, especially because, how bad their season has been. I think it was really good at the start, obviously starting off 4-2, and they were one play away from 5-2, and they blew it. And it really, that's the two words you can use for the Bears season, blew it. Because they were playoff contenders at that point. Caleb Williams was looking pretty darn good, and there wasn't a lot to say about the Bears that you could argue they shouldn't be a playoff team until they started losing. And I think that losing streak just didn't help the momentum, and they lost 10 in a row, which now we're here, and they just won a game to basically get him a worse draft pick. And that's really all it did. I guess maybe a little confidence for Caleb Williams going into the next season, but at the end of the day, it doesn't really matter. This game didn't matter. It mattered for the Packers. And the Packers could easily be eliminated next round. Obviously they're playing the Eagles, but Jordan Love's injured. And I don't know the full extent. I'll get to that later, but Jordan Love got hurt. And obviously that's a big red flag if you're a Packers fan or just an NFL fan in general, and you have the Packers winning this game. Obviously the Eagles are a tough team, but I think it's going to be even more of a blowout without Jordan Love. I admire Malik Willis. I like what he did early on in the season when Love got injured. He was 2-0, but I think it's Malik Willis is not enough to have a playoff team. I think it's a mid-tier playoff team with a really good quarterback. That's what Jordan Love brings to the team. So he makes them contenders in a way. But I don't think Malik Willis does that. I think Malik Willis is kind of a combination of I think he could start in this league, but I don't think he's would be a good quarterback. I think he would be a bottom 10 quarterback, but I definitely think he could start. So he's not obviously a team that really relies on their quarterback. They're not going to win a big game in the playoffs with a bottom 10 quarterback. That's my take. And then we have some picks. I had Texans versus Titans. I had the Texans winning that one. I don't remember the score, but Texans won that one 23-14. And I didn't watch this game because it really wasn't interesting. There was no stakes on the line. Texans had already solidified their point in the playoffs. They were the 4 seed automatically. So it really depended if you wanted 10 wins or 9 wins. That's what it came down to. And I'm honestly surprised, that the Titans didn't put up more of a fight, because for most of this game, Davis Mills was in. C.J. Stroud, I think, was in for the first quarter. And he played really good. He looked nice. And then, Davis Mills was Davis Mills. So I think that's definitely something to think about. In the Bucs Saints, that was a really, really interesting game. And it came down to the wire, really. It came down to the final bell. I had the Bucs winning that. And I had it being a closer game than an 8-point loss for the Saints. But it ultimately ended in 27-19 for a win for the Bucs. And I thought it was just awesome. Like, I was watching that game. I thought it was awesome how, they weren't, the Saints weren't like triple covering Mike Evans on the last play. They kind of, let him get that a little. And they threw the ball in the last play, which is really risky, but they knew it was going into the hands of Mike Evans to get that 11th consecutive season with 1,000 yards. So I thought that was a really, really cool, thing for Mike Evans and the team, like everyone running out. So yeah, I think the Bucs have a lot of momentum going into the playoffs, and they're playing the Vikings. So, are they playing the Vikings? Yeah, I think they are. I think they're playing the Vikings. So obviously that's going to be a tough team to play against. The Bucs are playing the Commanders, sorry. The Bucs got the 3 seed. So that's interesting because the Rams benched all their players. They could have had the 3 seed playing the Commanders, but now the Rams are playing the Vikings. I don't quite understand that. I don't know why they benched their players because they could have had the 3 seed. Yeah, I don't get that coaching motive. I guess made the decision, but that is a really dumb decision on my thinking. I think at least. Yeah, I can't believe they did that, but yeah, the Bucs go into the playoffs with a lot of momentum. They get a big win over the Saints. I know the Saints aren't particularly a good team and not a playoff tier team, and like I said in the other podcast. The Buccaneers have not, and yes, they have not beaten a team over 500. So it's really going to be interesting when they get to the playoffs. I think the Commanders are going to win that game. But I think when you have a quarterback like Baker Mayfield, and yes, I was hating on him last podcast. Yes, I didn't say great things about him. He's still a top 10 quarterback. And he's still going to throw for you at least 250 yards. He's going to be a good quarterback, no matter what it is, whether he's a top 10, whether he's top 5, top 15. He's still a good quarterback, and he's going to keep you in games no matter who the team is. So I think, that could be a shootout, but I think the Commanders would win that. But going back to, like, the, more over of the predictions, so that's 2-0 for me. I had the Eagles taking down the Giants, and it was really an ugly game. Obviously, you're not going to get a good game when it's the Giants, who aren't a good football team, and the Eagles, who have all their backups in. So yeah, it kind of sounds exactly how the game went. It was an ugly game. On to the next, 3-0, the Patriots versus the Bills. Patriots took down the Bills, and some recent news, Gerard Mayo has been fired after just 1 season in the NFL. He was the linebackers coach for the Patriots before that, and he also played for the Patriots. And now he's fired. He's out. And I think it's a really interesting move by Kraft. And I think they are bound to pick up someone like Mike Vrabel, a guy that has been a head coach in the NFL, knows this, space and environment, and is willing to compete. And I don't think Gerard Mayo was that guy. I think Gerard Mayo was a guy that's going to get you a good draft pick, and that's what Robert Kraft wanted. So, yeah, they got a good draft pick, but they lost out on the first overall. And I think that's also a key reason to why Gerard Mayo lost his job. So 3-1 after that. Colts versus Jags. I had the Colts winning. That's 4-1. It was another, meh game, 26-23. And then we had the Bears versus the Packers, 5-1 there. 24-22 Bears. That was a really good pick for me, I think. So we start off really good at 5-1. And then I also had the Commanders beating the Cowboys. Got that one, so that's 6-1. But then here's kind of where I lose a couple. I had the Falcons beating the Panthers, but the Panthers, I think this was the best performance from the Panthers all season. They really came out to win this football game, and they won 44-38. Well deserved from Bryce Young, and like their coach said, Dave Canales, Bryce Young is the future quarterback. I would not agree with you if you said that in week 4 or week 5. He's their future. They should not draft a quarterback. He's their future. Bryce Young is a good quarterback, and he just needs time to develop. And I think Dave Canales can be that guy to develop him because I think Dave Canales is a good head coach. And I think he's going to work in the NFL. I could see the Panthers being on the verge of playoffs just next year if they have a good offseason and a good draft. So it really comes down to that. Dolphins, Jets, I had the Dolphins winning that one. Obviously, it was a horrible game. And I think in that situation, I get Tua was injured, but if you're Mike McDaniels, do you want to win that game? Obviously, it didn't matter because the Broncos won, but, like, you have to force Tua to get on that field. Whether the severity of injury, like, it wasn't horrible to the point where, like, he's on IR. I think Tua should have been playing in that game, and it ultimately didn't matter, like I said. But, yeah, so we dropped to 5-3 there. And then the Chargers-Raiders, I predicted that one. So 6-3 as a record. And then the Seahawks-Rams, I projected Rams, so 6-4. Broncos-Chiefs, that was an ugly game. I thought the Chiefs were going to win that game. And they didn't, so 6-5. Cardinals-49ers, 6-6. I got that one wrong. I predicted the 49ers. Then the Lions-Vikings, I got that one wrong too. I had the Vikings winning. Should have had the Lions. I didn't know how tough of a team the Lions were coming into this, and I didn't know how much they wanted it. So obviously they solidified their pick as a Super Bowl contender, and they showed how much they wanted it. So a really bad first week, I would say, for me, 6-7. But I think there were a lot of picks in there. Like, I just have to get better as I go on with this podcast on picking. But yeah, I mean, not horrible for my first. I think I got some big projections, but I think I easily could have gotten the Broncos over the Chiefs. Easily could have gotten, the Cardinals. I think I easily could have gotten the Patriots. I didn't know the severity of how much they were benching their team. I didn't know the Bills were benching their whole entire team. So it really comes down to that. So then, moving over some more things. The Steelers, obviously, in the first podcast, if you don't know me, I'm a Steelers fan. I've been really upset with how we performed and how we competed in the last couple weeks. Obviously, I think you could see why that is. And, the Steelers need to figure something out in the secondary because that's the hole in the team. Everything else is good. I mean, the offense isn't good, but I don't think it's what's holding us back. The secondary is holding us back. And I think, at the end of the day, we have to get more pressure on the quarterback. And at the end of the day, could we be seeing, in our defensive coordinator, another Matt Canada situation? And obviously Mike Tomlin is not going to fire our defensive coordinator because, he's not just going to fire him after one bad year. But if this continues, this could get into a Matt Canada type situation. And Steelers, don't want that because the defense is the core of our team. And you don't want that to go downhill just from bad play calling. And that's kind of what ruins a team. And, I think the team doesn't want it. Like Alex Highsmith said in a quote, we're going to see who really wants it. And right now, no one wants it. And I think that's a really good look on it because there are superstars on this team that just want to win something important. Highsmith, TJ Watt, Patrick Queen, Minkah Fitzpatrick, even Russell Wilson. I said he should be benched, but he's a veteran. He wants to win things. George Pickens, I know he doesn't have the best attitude. He wants to win things. Pat Freiermuth, he wants to win things. Even rookies like Zach Frazier, he wants to win things. Mason McCormick, they want to win things. But there are just one or two holes on this team that hold us back. I think the cornerback is the biggest issue. And like I said last podcast, Jamar Chase should not be guarded by Corey Trice, a former 7th-round pick, and this is his first season of eligibility, really, because he was injured in his rookie season. He should not be on Jamar Chase. He shouldn't. And I think the whole stunt with Joey Porter on their cornerback 2 to kind of inflate his stats is just bull. It shouldn't happen. Joey Porter should have been playing on Jamar, or even a guy like Deshaun Elliott, you pull up to cornerback. He has had a outrageous year, and I think he's one of the leaders on this defense, even probably one of our best players. He could have been pulled up easily, and you could have pushed, anyone back, even Corey Trice back. You could have put someone back, Dante Jackson. He has been horrific. He has horrible pass coverage. I know he has a couple balls, but that's just lucky that there was a throw to him. He catches it. He does not have good coverage. He is not a good cornerback. Those interceptions do not define Dante Jackson as a player. He has held us back so much this year, and as well as Corey Trice in these last couple games. Beanie Bishop should be on the field every play. I know it's another situation of him getting a lot of picks, kind of makes him look good, but I personally think he's a way better defender than Dante Jackson and Corey Trice. He should be on the field. That being said, I don't have any hope for this playoff game. I don't. Unless Mike Tomlin can really realize something, and he realizes that it's okay to make a change. It is. It's okay to make a bold move, but that's not who Mike Tomlin is. Again, he has to make some sort of move, and he's not going to, because that's not the type of coach he is. He relies on his coordinators to make important decisions, and he sits back and he's just chill with the teammates, the players. That's why Mike Tomlin is a good coach, because he's a good coach to the players. Everyone loves him. But listen here, when it comes to a big game, Mike Tomlin potentially is a bottom 10 quarterback when it matters in an actual coach situation. Sure, he's got great coach stability. He's won some Super Bowls. He's won big games. And the players love him. That's why you never hear an NFL player talk bad about Coach Mike Tomlin. And that is a great trait to have as an NFL coach. And I love that for Mike Tomlin. I love having him as our coach. But there's some things about him as a coach that if he did certain things, he would be the best in the world. He would be the best of all time. It's just those things are holding him back from coaches like Bill Belichick and other leaders around the past history of the NFL. He has to, at some point, pull his head out of the gutter and make a decision, make a call, whether it's on the offense or defensive side, whether it's benching someone or calling play calls. At this point, Mike Tomlin, our defensive coordinator, has been so poor to, I think you would be better calling the plays during the games than he would. I think it just cut ties with him. You call the plays. That's what I think. But he doesn't want to, because he wants to focus more on the game than actually doing a job. And that's why you'll never see Mike Tomlin calling plays, because he leaves it on the coordinators and he focuses on the game. I don't like that stance as a coach. I think as a coach you have to make important decisions, and one of those things is play calling on big plays, third downs on the defense, fourth downs, if you need to kick. But Mike Tomlin does none of this. Like we've said, the Steelers are never going to win games if they don't have a good quarterback, one, and if Mike Tomlin doesn't become an actual good play caller. One of those two has to happen to win games. You saw the Steelers can win games with Big Ben because he's one of the best quarterbacks of all time, top 10 quarterback. And Mike Tomlin, he's not. He can't call important plays. So if you have one of those things, a coach that can call important plays and step up as a head coach instead of just being a player's coach, that's when you're going to have a team that can win games. Until then, you're not. Because right now we don't have a quarterback and we don't have a coach that can step up in a big decision and make calls and not just be a player's coach. You're never going to be successful if you're just chill with the players. You're never going to be successful. You have to lay down rules, restrictions with them. You have to, teach them really. As a coach, that's what you're supposed to do. And Mike Tomlin doesn't do any of that. He doesn't. And it's simple as that. And I'm already focused on next year. I am. I get we have a playoff spot. And I don't mean that fully. But how am I, supposed to have confidence in my team when we don't have a good quarterback? Our coach is arguably, during games, one of the worst clock managers, the worst at calling plays, and the worst at making big decisions. So how am I supposed to have confidence in my team when all three of those are going towards us and not against us? How am I supposed to have confidence when that happens? I just don't. I'm focused on the draft. I don't think Najee Harris should be re-signed because, he gets tired after running a 10-yard play. I get he gives it his all, and I get he has some big plays for us. I think it should be Jaylen Warren, and you should sign a power back. Jaylen Warren should be the number one running back on any team, I think, besides, obviously good running backs. Jaylen Warren should be the number one running back, and Najee should come on for big third down plays when you need a power back. You don't need Najee Harris, the skill of Harris, as a main running back. You need a running back like Najee Harris that's not as good, that is only used on a few plays. And I think Scadaboo from Arizona State would be a great option if we drafted him in like the third round. I think that would be awesome if we kept Jaylen Warren and drafted Scadaboo. That would be sick. That being said, I think we're gonna sign Najee Harris, and I don't think we're gonna sign Jaylen Warren. I think when it comes to making decisions, and this is more of an Omar Khan decision, Mike Tomlin's not good at that. He's not gonna say anything to Omar Khan like, hey, I think Jaylen Warren would be more impactful. He's gonna let Omar Khan make the decision. And though I think Omar Khan is a top 5 GM in the league, I don't think he knows as much as head coaches would know about their team. And even if Mike Tomlin just helps Omar Khan with that pick between the running back race, I think it would go a long way. He's not going to. So, yeah, I mean, we're already at 20 minutes. I don't want to waste our time focusing on the Steelers. But, yeah, I mean, that's really my takes on, what the Steelers what's going on